Welcome into I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That is my co-host Tyson Gentry as we are continuing our top 5 rankings of the positions in the National Football League. If you haven't seen it, we did the quarterbacks, we did the running backs. Today, we're moving on to the top 5 wide receivers. And I think this is going to be a fun one. And so we'd like to ask, if you disagree with us on anything, or if you agree, comment in the comments on this video. I think this is going to be a fun one to go through. There's a ton of people that could have made this list that maybe didn't. So let us know in the comments. And if you like what you're hearing, smash that like button. But Tyson, man, I mean, we were saying a little bit off air, this is tough to figure out which way we want to go.
The wide receiver is juiced, and it's impossible to. One guy might play the slot at an exceptional level, but we like guys who play the X or whatever. And so it's everybody, they're the same position, but CeeDee Lamb doesn't play the same style that T. Higgins does. And it's they're both wide receivers in name only. Neither one of those guys made the list. I was just using an example. It was hard as shit to find 5 of them, though, because I think we could honorable mention 10 guys.
So jump into yours. Who's your number 5 here?
My number 5, and I was going to give the nod to Stephon Diggs, but if you can see behind me, I got my Dawkins jersey up, and if you listen to the show at all, we're basically an Eagles podcast with a unique name here. A.J. Brown is a monster. This is the number 1 slant running receiver, routes. Over the middle, A.J. Brown is unstoppable. There's nothing anybody can do. Jalen Hurts couldn't throw the ball over the middle 2 years ago. All of a sudden, A.J. Brown shows up, and he's killing everybody over the middle of the field. He can go deep. He can go short. And one thing that I've always thought about A.J. Brown, and I think we've talked about this too, he's like Big Deebo Samuel with better ball tracking ability down the field. And he never got the love in Tennessee because the targets weren't there. The offense wasn't the same. And then this year he puts up monster numbers, ridiculous numbers, 1,500 yards, all the touchdowns, all that stuff. They didn't throw the ball in the fourth quarter. So it's almost like you're looking at this guy and you're like, yeah, his numbers were really good. And then you think back and it's like, oh, yeah, they were up 25 on everybody going in the fourth quarter. This could have been somebody knocking on the door 2,000 yards if the Eagles' defense was worse or if the offense didn't put up so many points. I don't think that there's anybody that's more complete as a football player at the wide receiver position than A.J. Brown. And that's why I have him 5 over guys like Diggs, Cooper Kupp, or whoever else. Dude, A.J. Brown is special.
Yeah, I'm glad the Eagles, as an Eagles fan, went out and got him. That completely elevated Jalen Hurts, and it was a great pickup for him. But he didn't make my cut, Tyson.
That's
I'm
all right.
not going to lie to you. So, I mean, I have Cooper Kupp at number 5, and the injuries are what I think people will point to as a
still
knock
had
on
75 catches in 9 weeks.
75 catches, 112 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 9 games. 90.2 yards per game.
1,112, right?
No, 90.2 last year.
Yards?
Yeah, yards per game.
Oh, gotcha. You said 112 yards, and I got confused.
812 yards total.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No. And so he won the Triple Crown in 2021, right? This is 2 years removed from that. 145 receptions, 1,947 yards, 16 touchdowns, lead the league in all those categories. It's crazy. He's a Super Bowl MVP. Offensive Player of the Year in 2021. I think he's like the best route runner and possession guy in the NFL. It's that combo, right? He just gets open always and never drops the ball. He's just a stud. So it was hard, right? Because the injuries now, and he's banged up again heading into this season. How many games is he going to play? What's this offense going to look like? But I think as an overall wide receiver, 2 years ago, we're talking about him as the best in the league. So I think I had to put him in there just because I know in 2 years, things can change in the not for long league, but it's true. It was hard for me to keep Cooper Kupp out of here. That's for sure.
The other part about Kupp is last year when he was healthy, the Rams couldn't run the ball. Stafford was hurt. The entire structure of the roster was falling in on itself. And all he did was show up and get 100 yards a game, find his way in the end zone. It was they're throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp. And I mean, as FCS guys, we're happy.
Yeah, he's been a stud. Okay, who's your number 4, Tyson?
My number 4 is Jamar Chase. And I went back and forth on this one because he's a paradox where 1 week he might be number 1, and the next week it kind of feels like maybe he's 10. But the surprise plays were gone. Not that anybody was surprised by rookie year Jamar Chase being so explosive and making all these down the field plays, but it was hard to game plan for. when you didn't really know what was happening. And so last year, all he did, right, regression, and we hear all that stuff. He was injured, banged up, whatever. Joe Burrow had 112 passer rating when targeting this guy, 118 in the playoffs. Jamar Chase is open. Jamar Chase catches the ball. Joe Burrow loves to throw the ball to Jamar Chase. He splits it about 50-50 between him and T. Higgins, and the numbers speak for themselves between those two guys, because when Jamar Chase gets the ball, dude might just be gone. And like, speed is a really underrated part of Jamar Chase's game. He's one of the few guys in the league where he takes a slant, takes the 75 yards of the house, and you're surprised. But then he does it again 3 weeks later, and over and over and over again. And he's just a primetime performer, man. It feels like when the lights get bright, you can go back to his sophomore year at LSU. Every big game they had, it was like Jamar Chase is in the end zone again. And now that he's in the NFL, it's like, dude, this guy is murdering everybody. If it wasn't for his college teammate, we'd be talking about this guy as the best start to an NFL career ever.
Yeah, and you talk about people being fast, man. I got my number 4 as the fastest guy in the NFL at wide receiver. Probably, or maybe even the fastest guy that's ever played the position when you just look at pure speed. And admittedly, he might be a little low. I mean, coming in at 4 and you're putting Tyreek Hill there, that's how good the receivers are in this league right now. Like, it's crazy. Last year, everybody's questioning, okay, without Patrick Mahomes, what's this guy going to do? He had the best season of his career, 119 catches, 1,710 yards, averaging over 100 yards per game, and then got in the end zone 7 times. He's had 1,000 yards receiving in 5 out of his 7 seasons. And since he's become basically the full-time starter, like a number 1 option, he's done it 5 years in a row. Like, the dude's a stud, 4-time All-Pro, just absolute burner, and he's a game changer every time he's on the field. I think we saw that, right? Like, everybody was questioning, this is how good he is. Oh, is this Kansas City offense with one of the best coaches of all time, one of the best QBs of all time, are they going to take a hit because he's gone? That's the type of talent this guy is. And so, Tyreek Hill, he's a stud, man. It's crazy that, I may have put him a little too low in the list. But Tyson, I think you have him, maybe some people would argue appropriately.
I got him at 3. And again, this is a guy you could have at 1. And you hit on all the Tyreek points. One thing I'll say, he's an underrated route runner. He will route you up. And he's so much better at the catch point than he gets credit for, because when you're just kind of sitting there on your couch and red zone's playing, it's just always him running by people. You don't see Tyreek Hill dominating a safety, going over a corner and a safety, splitting the coverage, sitting down in the zone. This dude is just an all-around football player. And some weeks, dude, it's like, is Tyreek Hill the best receiver in the NFL? And it happened more and more in Miami, I think, than it did in Kansas City, just because it was in Kansas City, it almost felt like he got half the credit and Mahomes got half the credit. Andy Reid split some of that. Travis Kelce's underneath, opening things up. Then he goes to Miami, and all of a sudden Tua Tagovailoa is the best deep ball thrower in the league. That has a lot to do with number 10, with Tyreek Hill, and with Jalen Waddle. We don't want to discredit him. But when you can just throw that thing as far as you can, and your guy's going to beat the corner and the safety who starts 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, this dude, he said he wants to go for 2,000 yards, and it's at a point in Tyreek's Hill career where I'm just like, yeah, he's probably going to get it.
Yeah, and I have him flip-flop because I got my number 3 guy here is Jamar Chase, and I just absolutely love Jamar Chase's game. And Tyson laid it out perfectly, right? He's just so explosive, so fast, and he goes up and gets the ball too. He's an elite at the point receiver. And his rookie year was sensational. He had the most reception yards in a single game by a rookie with 266. He had the most reception yards in a season by a rookie.
Wasn't that 266 against the Chiefs?
I think it was.
Yeah, it was a big time game. Yeah.
Yeah. It was nuts. And then he has the most receiving yards in the playoffs by a rookie with 368 too. So, the guy, like you said, he's a primetime player, man. He's ready to go every single year. And this will be his 3rd season, but he's had 1,000+ receiving yards since he's come in. And there were questions, oh, Jamar Chase, is he really going to be the guy on his team? Because T. Higgins is pretty good. And a lot of people like T. Higgins. I don't think there's any talent close right now compared to the ceiling that Jamar Chase can reach if he continues to grow. Because I think we're only just scratching the surface on how good this guy is. Yeah, just based on what he can do route running and go up and get the football.
Remember when he couldn't catch the ball in preseason his rookie year? And it was like, oh, this guy's going to suck. He sounds stupid now.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
My number 2, Brad, and this is maybe the Derrick Henry of the wide receiver list. This dude is going to be on here for me until he's done. He hangs up the cleats. Davante Adams is walking into Canton, Ohio, when he's done. And it's hard to say that for receivers. But the way I look at Davante Adams, and I heard him say once that if the aliens come down and you need one person to catch a football, I'm picking me. And I'm picking him too. I just find a hole. Find one thing this guy isn't not just above average at, but elite at. Good luck to every corner in the NFL putting your hands on him at the line of scrimmage, because the way he breaks the press is stupid. Good luck sticking with him in and out of breaks. Good luck beating him at the catch point. And so when my thing with Davante Adams is when he plays Jalen Ramsey and he plays Sauce Gardner or whoever else, the highlights get posted to the corner, stopping him once or twice in that game. We don't see the highlights don't get posted of him having 8 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, because that's just what he does. That's who he is. I think he's the most consistent performer at the wide receiver position. Maybe not over the last 2 years, because the guy we have in front of him has been pretty damn good too. But for a decade, it was like throw the ball anywhere near 17 and he's going to go get it. And he leaves Aaron Rodgers. He goes to Derek Carr, and we're not Derek Carr fans, but Derek Carr can throw the ball a little bit. When that offense wasn't running through Davante Adams, that offense wasn't running. And no disrespect to Josh Jacobs. He had an awesome season. Fantastic. Go check the numbers, because when Davante Adams got 2 targets or whatever in week 2, offense sucked. They come back, they throw it to him 15 times. All he has is 12 catches to 150 yards, a couple tuds. Like, this dude he's a cheat code, man.
Yeah, we're simpatico the rest of the way, because I have Davante Adams as my number 2 as well. And you said it, like, you want some guy to catch it, you probably want Davante Adams, because he's caught 100-plus balls in his career 4 times. It's nuts. He's led the NFL in receiving touchdowns now twice. He did it last year with 14 and had 18 in 2019. And we always say scoring a touchdown in this league is a skill. Like, you can't just walk in and start scoring touchdowns. Like, you have to figure out how to do it. I think he's the best red zone threat at receiver in the NFL.
He might just be point blank. He might point blank be the best red zone threat in the NFL.
He's such a good route runner, like in quick spaces. Like, he's going to win that matchup, and that's why he's such a threat in the red zone. And last year, like you said, without Rodgers, caught 100 balls, 1,516 yards, and the leading 14 touchdowns at the receiver position. He's been all-pro 3 times in his career. He's done it 3 years in a row. Like, and he's getting better. That's what it looks like. Now he kind of figures out the game a little bit, knows it a little bit more, and he's just ready to go. And I'm curious to see what he does. If he has another season like he did last year with either Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever else the Raiders are going to throw out there, I mean, this dude, maybe we have him too low.
There's nobody else in the league right now that when you're on the goal line and they're throwing that fade up, nobody else is getting safety help over the top on a 10-yard pass. Like, that's who this guy is. But Brad, Davante Adams is awesome. Jamar Chase is awesome. The dude we have at 1 is, how do you describe him? I mean, it really, like, this dude shows up, and maybe doesn't matter for this exercise, but he's a 2-star recruit coming out of high school. He basically gets an offer to LSU because his brothers played there and played very well there. So he gets almost a legacy offer. He works his way up. All of a sudden, Joe Burrow shows up, and it's like, hey, is anybody else checking out this number 2 guy on this LSU team? Because he's killing everybody. And then he gets disrespected in the draft process. He goes late in the first round, I think 22 to Minnesota, 21, 22, whatever that is, famously right behind Jalen Reagor, but also behind a couple other receivers in that draft class, Henry Ruggs and those guys, Jerry Jeudy, and he is shitting on all of them. And it's to the point where his first year it was like, oh, this guy's a special for a rookie. And then by about week 12, it was like, oh, this guy's just special. Then by about week 8 of last year, it was like, is this the best start to an NFL career that we've ever seen, position excluded? Because he wins them a game against Buffalo with the one-handed. The only time he's ever been shut down was against Darius Slay last year in week 2. And part of that was because Kevin O'Connell just got out-schemed. Like, he's doing this with everybody's favorite quarterback to crap on in Kirk Cousins. So it's tough when you talk about Jamar Chase having Joe Burrow, A.J. Brown had Jalen Hurts, Cooper Kupp has Matt Stafford, who, like, Tyreek Hill went from Pat Mahomes to Tua, and we like Tua more than we like Kirk Cousins. This dude is open every play. He's beating people with routes. He's faster than people give him credit for. He catches everything. And if touchdowns are a skill, what do we call the gritty? He showed up, and the whole NFL is doing his move. So if it's a copycat league, right, and they copied the best.
Yeah, man. It's like you said, great. Just talking about Justin Jefferson, right? And like faster than people think. I think it's because he's always open. People are like, he's doing a crisp route running. He just kind of knows how to run routes. But a lot of it is too. He's like a big dude who like uses his speed very well. And I think that's one of his most underrated parts is he can just run by team defenders as well. Like just game break you on the back end too. It's not just across the middle. It's not just out routes where he's catching passes. I think that's one of the things where he's going to continue to improve. And last year, Tyson, best year of his career by a mile. He led the league in receptions with 128, led the league in receiving yards with 1,809, and also receiving yards per game. He had 106.4 per game.
Yeah, it's dumb.
The only reason why he didn't get a triple crown is because Devontae Adams had 14 touchdowns, but Jefferson had 8.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that, it's, James Cook's getting in the end zone, Alexander Madison, like other players like Hawkinson. I mean, this guy could easily have been in the double digits. So, now you have another legit threat to pair with him and Jordan Addison. Is that going to open things up, prevent double and triple teams and shades over the top against him? We could be looking at, he won Offensive Player of the Year last year in 2022. Are we talking MVP level stuff that this guy could get to if he continues to grow? Which, I mean, by all intents and purposes here, it's a young player. He's ready to go.
It's stupid, man. I mean, we're 2 or 3 years into his career, and it's like this dude is going. Half his equipment's already in Canton because every time he steps on the field, it's like, oh yeah, that's the most yards to X amount of games every single time. He's got 10 pairs of glove in Canton. Brad, who is the most underrated receiver that we left off this list?
I think Stephon Diggs probably. I mean, is he underrated by definition? Probably not. But I think when he's on that offense, we're talking about like cogs in the system that make an offense go. When Stephon Diggs is on, that offense looks great. If he's struggling a little bit, it's a different offense.
I think Diggs as well. I mean, I felt really bad leaving him off because the dude just got unleashed when he got to Buffalo. Like, Justin Jefferson just seems like a souped up version of what Stephon Diggs is right now. And that's no disrespect to Stephon Diggs because that dude's 1,500 yards too when he rolls out of bed. Yeah, and if we missed anybody, if you're clamoring for any other wide receiver that we didn't even mention in this episode that deserve to mention, whether it's DeAndre Hopkins or whoever else, if you're still clinging to that, but throw it down in the comments. Let us know, and if we like your reply or we think you made a good point, we'll shout you out on the next episode because we're through quarterbacks, running backs, and now wide receivers. We're not going to hit offensive line necessarily because I don't think anybody's trying to sit through a podcast of who we think is the top 5 left tackles or right guards in the NFL. We're sticking to mostly skill positions, but we'll get to the defensive side of the ball here soon. Brad, we got preseason football tomorrow.
Yep.
We're back. Hard Knocks is back. This is huge. And so throw some comments down. Let us know where we messed up. Let us know if we got anything right, which look, that's the beauty of the wide receiver position is like you can throw 5 different guys and we could go, yeah, they probably should have been on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got one right. That I'll put it that way. I don't think anybody.
If you disagree with number 1, your name is either Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, or Cooper Kupp or whoever else.
Like, subscribe, and share in the meantime. Like Tyson said, we got a ton of more content coming out, so make sure you stay connected with us on our YouTube channel, or if you're listening in podcast form, wherever you get your podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.